I'm not going to preach to you, I'm just going to talk to you. I'm going to share with you something that I think is very important and something that I think maybe we don't always recognize. It's happening, but we don't always recognize it. Just one verse for now, and we'll mention some others along the way. Romans chapter 8 and verse number 28. And we know all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. One of those things that is working together for good is the fact that God brings people into our life. Throughout the course of your life, God is going to intersect you with certain people. There's people that you have met already. There's people you're going to meet that you don't know yet. And these people will come to you and will cross your path because it is God's desire that it's going to be for your good and something's going to happen there that's going to be for his purpose. And God is working much, much more than we realize God is working. Usually when something, spectacularly good happens, we say, oh, praise God, God did that. That was just a divine appointment, or that was clearly the hand of God. But actually God is at work all the time. And it's just hard for you to comprehend how much God is at work in your life and around your life all the time. We tend to almost see God as a visitor. Something happened, oh, that's God. Or this took place, oh, God did that. But actually God is with you all the time, and God is working with you all the time. And there's an intensity of activity going on around your life all the time. And God is doing things to bring about your good and his purpose. And relationships are one of those things. God allows them to happen. More than that, God brings them to be. More than that, God determines the timing of the relationship, when you meet the person, when that occurs. And not only that, God determines the circumstances under which you meet. Because all of that is the setup that enables something to take place that God wants it to take place. So I'm just going to give you some simple thoughts about that. I want you to be thinking about that because I want you to stand back a little bit and realize what God is doing around you with people. And statement number one is this: relationships, and I'm going to call them relationships. That may not be the best word because when you think relationships, you think your wife, your kids, or somebody close. But these sometimes are not at that level of closeness, but they are people that you meet for a purpose. So if you'll just allow me some grace. By the way, let me say this. I'm going to diverge for a second. What Pastor did not tell you, he was talking about being, not doing. What he did not mention is in the year since I've been gone, the church offerings have increased 30%. Attendance is up in every service. It seems that when you be, things happen. Don't think that he was just talking, just be and it's all kumbaya and it's all and you're not doing. No, things are happening. People are getting saved and baptized, and God was adding to the church, and offerings are going up, and lives are being changed. But he's not going to tell you that. You say, how does that make you feel? You left and the church attendance increased, the offerings increased. It makes me feel very good. Did you want me to leave and it all comes crashing down? When God is in something, when God is in something, it's not that somebody wins and somebody loses. When God is in something, it's win, win, win. God never says, I want to bless the church, but unfortunately, if I bless the church, the family will suffer. You have to choose one or the other. God does not set good things against each other, never. We do it, God never does it. So you would expect if God was in my going, if it was truly God, then God would not move me away to somehow destroy a work in Australia that was very needful. So it was expected. And I was believing and thinking, well, that's what should happen. God would bless, and that's what has happened there. So God has blessed it. All right, statement on relationships are meant to give us something, but never give us everything. God prohibits that. God will never bring anybody into your life who can be everything to you. God will not allow any human, any person, to stand in your life in the way that he does. In fact, God always wants you to have to need him. And one of the mistakes that is typically made in marriages is that a man or a lady will think that the person they marry is going to be their cure-all for all of life's problems. They're going to get married, all their dreams will be fulfilled, all their happiness is going to come from this person. Everything they've been waiting for and longing for is about to happen. God has given them this person, and so therefore it's all going to be good, good, good. There's never going to be any of those down moments, and that's a mistake. Because God won't even give you a life partner who can be everything to you. There's an area of you that God says nobody can come in but me. You have needs that no person on earth can meet. You know, sometimes a fellow will get disgruntled in his marriage and think, oh, you know, this is not working. And you hear people say this, I just need somebody to meet my needs. You know, or someone reaches a point like, well, what about me? I just need someone for me. It's a mistake. God is leaving areas of need in your life because he wants you to have to go to him. God will never bring a person into a church who will relieve the pastor of his burdens. He'll bring a person into the church who will help you, but no person is ever going to come into your church that is going to remove the unique thing that God has placed upon you that he insists that you have to carry and come to him about. He's not going to relieve you of that. You're not going to get to the place where you don't have to come. He wants you to have to come to him. And so no matter who the person is, no matter how good they are, no matter what they offer, no matter their closeness or not, relationships that God brings into our life, and again, I'm using the word relationships, it might just be like a friendship, it might just be even less than that. But God brings people into our lives to give us something, but never everything. Statement number 2 is this: every relationship will have a mutual transfer, but not necessarily in equal measure. In other words, God will intersect you with people for a purpose, for his purpose and your good. And in that relationship, there will be a process of transfer. And what will happen is you will get something and you will give something. But depending on the relationship, you may give more than you're getting. Or you may get more than you give. There are some relationships and some people God has brought into my life, and as I evaluate it, I am getting more than I'm giving. But then there are some other relationships in my life where it seems like it has fallen upon me to do most of the giving, and I get a little bit. So there is a process of transfer is happening in these people you're meeting, and it's meant to be so. Something is being given and something is being received. Now, I also want to qualify this by saying you do need to be alert, because sometimes, you know, it can be for good or it can be for bad. Remember, Amnon had a friend, Jonadab. That was a relationship that was not unto good. There was a prospect of mutual, exchange going on, but it was not unto good, and you have to discern that. But there isn't any relationship you enter into where transfer is not taking place. If you have Jonadab as your friend, then you're going to be influenced by Jonadab at some level. Jonadab is transferring to you. But many times it's unto good, and I would say most times it's unto good. But so a relationship is a process of mutual transfer. Something's going, something's giving. It may not be in equal measure, but it's happening. Statement number 3, we're moving really good. Statement number 3 is this: these relationships, from our view, the way we look at it, are almost always just stumbled upon. They're not pre-planned. These things that God is doing, that he brings to be the people that cross your path for a purpose, you didn't plan for it to happen. And because you didn't plan for it to happen, humanly speaking, you think, you could just say, if you weren't looking Godward, you'd say, I just sort of stumbled on this, it just happened, I never knew it was going to happen, I didn't plan for it to happen, I had no prior knowledge this was going to take place, but I met this person, and this person I was meant to meet for this reason. And when it happens that way, you don't have to force it to happen. In other words, if it's not happening, it's not meant to happen. I just believe this. If it's not given unto you, it's not given unto you. I'm really at peace with that. I'm at peace with saying that's not given unto me. I'm okay with that. You know, the Apostle Paul said to the Corinthians, what do you have that you did not receive from another? What thing can you say you have that was not given to you? God does give us, but God says some things that's not given to you. And I'm okay with that. So when a relationship is given, or again, I'm using the word relationship, but it might just be a friendship, it might even be something less. It's there for a purpose, and you think, oh, this just happened, but you may look and understand in hindsight, oh, this was for this reason. You may not know in the beginning why it was there, and I don't think you need to search that out. If it's meant to make itself clear, it'll make itself clear. Somebody asked me yesterday, they said, how did you get called to Thailand? And you know, I told you last night, everything in my life has been very unusual. I'm not going to write a book that says, this is the way you should do things. I don't say try to follow my pattern. I never knew I had a pattern. It's just how it just seems to work for me. But how I got to Thailand was through meeting a person. And what happened for me was I was transiting through Thailand to preach in other places in Asia. So you would fly to Bangkok, change aircraft, and fly on to another Asian city, do a meeting, come back to Bangkok, change aircraft, go back to Australia. But sometimes I'd overnight in Bangkok and get the flight out the next day or whatever. I was actually thinking, I hadn't thought about this, Pastor. I remember the first Asian country I ever went to in my life was actually Thailand, on the way to Israel. Somebody in our church paid for my wife and I to go to Israel. We bought tickets in Australia. We were flying Melbourne to Rome, to Tel Aviv, and on the way from flying Melbourne, Australia, we touched down in this place called Bangkok, Thailand. And all I remember is looking out the window and thinking, oh, look at this place. And I remember pulling up, and my wife and I, we were saying, look at this place. And we pulled up, and the plane was taxiing to go to the arrival bay and the airport, and we were looking out the window, and I was saying, this is disgusting. I said, can you believe people come here for a holiday? And she's saying, oh, it's awful. And we were like, do we have to get off the plane? And they said, it's just an hour turnaround, get off the gate and back. I'm like, okay. And I remember we got off the plane, and first thing we walked out the door of the plane, it was, this place stinks. And I can remember saying to my wife, can you smell that? And she's going, oh, could you smell it? I think it's in my clothes. She's saying, it smells. And so we walked off the plane, and we looked up and down the corridors and we thought, oh. And some people were like, oh, I'm going to walk around for an hour and have a look around. And we were like, no, we're going to go sit at the gate. And as soon as they say boarding, we're getting back on that Qantas aircraft and getting out of here. And that's what we did. And we sat there, and we were anxious to get out of that place. And we got on, and my wife's saying, do my clothes smell? And I'm saying, people coming for a holiday, I can't believe this. That was what I thought. It's like, and then that was the last thought I gave to Thailand, except I ended up transiting through Bangkok. And one particular day, and I never liked it, by the way. I didn't transit through Bangkok and think, there's something special about this place. I just have a spooky feeling I'm going to live the rest of my life here. None of that happened. It was like transit through, and it was, I never warmed to it at all. I'd get in a taxi, they never spoke English, I'd give them directions, I'd end up in the wrong place, and I'd think, well, do I have to keep transiting through here? Is there another city I can go through? And on one particular occasion, it was I had an afternoon clear before I had to fly out that night to go back to Australia, and I didn't know anyone, of course, and didn't know anything, and I thought, oh, I'll just go. There was a Starbucks near our hotel. So I'll go down to the Starbucks and I'll sit in whatever little bastion of Western civilization I can find, and I'll have a coffee, and then I'll walk back to my hotel, get on the plane, and thankfully say goodbye to Thailand again. And so I went down to the Starbucks, and I was sitting there, on my own. I'm sitting there, and I'm looking out the window. There's a traffic a little bit going on outside, and I was just sitting there thinking about my flight and how much time did I have, and a few hours, and And something funny happened outside the window. A couple of Thai people did something, and I just found myself watching. And they did something, and they started laughing at each other. And I just smiled a little bit, what was going on. And then a voice said to me, "Oh, do you know what just happened out there?" English. There was only Thai people in there. And I turned around, it was a Thai man sitting there. And I said, "No." I thought he spoke English. I said, no, I don't know what happened. And he said, "Well, they said this and this and this," and he told me. And I said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Oh, you speak English?" And he said, "Yeah, I speak English." And we just started dialoguing and talking. Now, when that was happening, again, I didn't get like a spooky feeling, God's calling me to Thailand. I was just talking to somebody that I presumed I was never going to see again in my whole life, just a person I never knew, somebody I never sought out. And this person began to talk to me, and then I started asking some questions about Thai culture and Thai religion, and this person was very open in explaining things to me, and it sort of began to open up my heart. And then this person said to me, "Look, if you want to, I'll be finished work tonight. We can get some. I'll take you to eat some Thai food, and then I'll show you around some places around Bangkok tonight, and I'll explain to you some more about this if you're interested." And I thought I would fly out tonight, but I thought, you know what? I am interested. I want to know. And I got on the phone, I called my office, I said, "Do I have an option to change my flight? Just push it out a day." And they said, "Yeah, you can do that." I said, "Okay." And so I met this person who then took me around and began to just explain to me about things. And we went to, the next day, we went and stood in front of some Thai temples, and I looked and I asked a lot of questions about what was going on. And what was happening was God had brought a person into my life who was drawing back the curtains to touch my heart about a place I had no idea at that time God was going to put me. Now that first took place 4 years ago. And I intersected with somebody, that person is still in my life. That person is still unsaved. That person sent me a text message this morning. That person loves my wife and loves my family. Buys my children's gifts, loves to be around our home. Has just become a dear friend to my wife and the kids. And you say, how did all that happen? Well, God did that. I never knew. I had no idea. I had no idea. God just brought me to someone, and it wasn't planned by me. I didn't understand its purpose. I didn't see the divine hand in it. I wasn't eerily touched. But the sovereignty of God was well able to intersect me with a person that I was meant to meet. And that was how, when I look back now, when I sometimes have my moments of darkness where I think, what am I doing in Thailand? I remind myself how easily God could have not put me in Thailand. I remind myself of how I felt about Thailand. And I remind myself, and I believe this morning, if I had not met that person, I would not be in Thailand. I absolutely believe that. If that meeting had not taken place that day in a Starbucks, everything I've done in Thailand, people have been saved, and all that's happened, I absolutely believe would not have occurred. That was undoubtedly the pivotal point of everything else happening. God did that. Which brings me to my next point. We often meet people because they are meant to bring us on our way somewhere. In Romans 15, verse 24, the Apostle Paul said, "Whensoever I take my journey to Spain, I will come to you, for I trust to see you in my journey," and here's a statement, "to be brought on my way thitherward by you." And he said the same thing to the believers at Corinth. "And to pass by you into Macedonia, and come again out of Macedonia unto you, and of you be brought on my way toward Judea." When I come to you, you will then bring me on my way the rest of the journey. And we often meet people because God has sent them to you, because they're to bring you somewhere in your journey. It's very important, I think, that you take hold of this. My friendship with Brother Fisher was undoubtedly one of these moments. Again, it was not pre-planned. I did not know who he was, and I did not want to know who he was. I had no interest. I'd been invited to preach a meeting about an 8-hour drive from Brisbane where I was pastoring. I was told that I was going to be like a preacher, and there was an American coming from San Diego. And the only person I'd ever met from San Diego was a wealthy man who owned a yacht who I really thought was obnoxious. So as soon as I heard the word San Diego, I immediately visualized this other person, and I was thinking, oh yeah, same. American from San Diego, whatever. So I went up there, and my wife said, who else is preaching? I said, I don't know, there's an American from San Diego, I don't know who he is. So I went up to the meeting, and I believe it was the Friday night. Brother Fisher was preaching first. And you say you just felt something like, here's a person that God is going to just use to change your life. No. I felt like, yes, he's an American from San Diego. That's what I felt. And it was probably, no, it wasn't probably, it was sin on my behalf. I really had a bad attitude. I did not have a warm attitude. I didn't have an attitude of, well, give the guy a go. I had an attitude of like looking and thinking, why is he doing that? Doesn't he realize when he's doing that, he's embarrassing that person? Oh, well, American from San Diego. That was it. Went back to my hotel room and didn't give it a lot of thought. Realized, okay, I'm preaching tomorrow, just get on with what you need to do, finish here, go home. Some things have never changed. And I went back to the hotel room, woke up the next morning, there was a McDonald's beside the hotel, walked over there for breakfast, was sitting down for breakfast as I recall, and Brother Fisher came across. He was also in the same hotel, the pastor had put us up there, and I think said, mind if I sit here? I said, no, I don't mind. And he sat down and just began to talk. And one of the first things he said to me is, I want to ask you, how did I do last night? And I said, first answer was the polite one. No, that's fine, yeah, that's good. No. How did I do? And he said this, wound me. And then my answer was, Pastor, you come from a much larger church than I do, and you're already way ahead of me. I don't think you need me to be telling you anything. And he said, no, wound me, tell me. And so we talked a little, and you say, you felt it then? No, I felt something, but I didn't really know unto what end. And then we went and we heard the preaching, and his preaching ministered to us. And then I found out he was going to be down in Brisbane to do a meeting with a missionary there, so we went to that meeting. And then I said, do you have some time? He said, yeah, I have some time. So we went to the Kookaburra Queen, which is like a paddle steamer, the tourist thing. But we didn't do the tourist thing. We arrived at the Kookaburra Queen. He arrived with his Bible under his arm. He didn't have a camera, he had a Bible. And we got on, we sat down, he opened the Word of God up. And I don't know he saw any of the sights or heard any of the commentary. He just talked Bible, but God began to work in my heart. Now, that meeting with Brother Fisher was a meeting where my church and my life changed. And everyone in our church can tell you what happened to us after that. Brother Fisher gave me something I needed. I had no idea that God had sent somebody. I didn't know, I didn't realize, but he was going to bring me on my way to a place in my church where if we had not gone to, I don't know what would have happened to us. But he was undoubtedly highly, highly influential in the whole journey of Good Shepherd Baptist Church and what we became and how God blessed to a very high percent. I changed because of that meeting. I changed because of my relationship with him. I changed my preaching style. I didn't try to, but I felt comfortable with the notion I can be me. I hadn't felt that before. When he said things like, David couldn't wear Saul's armor. He had to just do it his way. It was just like, it was illuminating. And that was a process. Now, I say all that to say is the journey and the blessing of our church took place because God brought me to somebody who was going to give me something I had no idea, and it was going to take us to where we needed to go. It wasn't planned. I didn't know about it. It just happened in the course of life. And you will meet people who you are meant to meet. And you will meet them at such a time as this, where it was meant to happen. And God has intersected you with somebody, something, a ministry, something. It's meant to be. Statement number 5 is the level or depth of the relationship is determined by God. Everyone is not close. And some are not meant to be. You say, but these, you say, listen to me, I just told you the guy who was instrumental in my coming to Thailand is still unsaved. How much fellowship can you have with an unsaved man? How much can you enter into with an unsaved man? He's a dear friend, and I think I can say tonight, I love him. And he loves me and loves my family. And I've urged him to get saved, and I've pleaded with him to get saved, and I keep reminding him about that. But God used somebody like that. And the relationship levels, Brother Fisher is right, he and I talk maybe 3 or 4 times a year. But when we talk, it's just like how it always was. It doesn't mean because God is bringing you to someone that necessarily that suddenly there's going to be this very, very close relationship. It may not be that way at all. It may not meant to be that way. In fact, most of them probably aren't that way. Some you see a little and some you see a lot. When I was pastoring, there were people in my church I was close to. There were men that were in close to me. But there were others who wanted to be in close. And all I can say about that is it was not given to them. And sometimes those men would come and they'd be teared up and they'd say, Pastor, I see how you work with Brother Nathan and I see how you work with this one. And Pastor, I just wish I could be your friend. I see you go eat with them and I just wish I could be your friend. And I'd say, you know what? Let's just be honest here. I'm not meant to be your friend. And you know what? Despite what you think, you don't need me as your friend. You need me as your pastor. And I am your pastor. You don't need another friend, you need a pastor. And God gives different people different things, which was my way of trying to kindly say, look, if this is not given to you, don't try and fight and claw to get it. It's not given to you. You don't have to force it when God's in it. Some people wanted me as their friend, but I was just meant to be their pastor. So, you know what? Some people are brought into our life. They will teach us, but they're not meant to be anything more than that. You say, but you said God divinely, He has. He's divinely brought you to that person. It's definitely there for your life. But He's not giving you a buddy or a friendship. He's giving you somebody who's going to teach you and bring you to somewhere you need to go. And so God determines the level of those relationships. They're different. Right now, the first person I won to Christ in Thailand was a young Thai man. I won him to Christ when he was 18. Now he's 22. And he gets to spend almost every day with me. In fact, he lives in my house. He has a room in my house, and he lives there with my family. And he's with me almost all hours, almost every day. He's in the car with me for hours when I go out soul winning and talking to people about Christ. Often when I meet for people to counsel with them, Thai people, he's with me. And And people say to him, Thai people say to him, oh, you're so blessed. You get to be with Pastor Sehmish all the time. And the pastor of our church says to him, you need to know what you have. Many people would want what you have. And they marvel that it's been given to him from where he came from. And they look and think, how did you get this? And I don't say I look at it that way. I say they look at it that way. They say, how did you get this? He teaches you every day and shares with you, and you get to, how did you get this? And the answer is how he got it is God gave it to him. I didn't give it to him. I feel like Elijah, whatever mantle he's got, I feel like, well, don't blame me for that. Whatever has been given to Elisha has been given to him by God, not by me. And this young man has been given something. He's been given access. He's been put in a place where he is going to get something. Nathan was that way. When I came to the Good Shepherd Baptist Church, Nathan was a teenager. And as a teenager, he will tell you, I brought him in. And I would purpose, when we went and we had youth Bible study, many youth were at the Bible study, but I would drive by and pick him up and he would come with me. And I would transfer and talk, and that was a process of years. You say, why did he get that? And some of the other teens, they didn't get that because it was given to him. God did that. I said to Nathan last night, to Pastor, I said, when Brother Gibbs started to preach, I said, I heard Brother Gibbs preach the message, prominent or preeminent. 20, I think it was 22, 23 years ago. I heard that message on cassette tape. Somebody said to me, they said, oh, here's a preaching tape, no CDs, and here's a preaching tape that you'll enjoy. And it said, Christ, prominent or preeminent. Dr. David Gibbs, I don't know who this is. Probably an American from San Diego. And anyway, I put that cassette tape in. And as I listened to that message, I was profoundly affected. And I thought, oh, I don't know who this person is, but this person is somebody. This person, God is using this person. Now, I never dreamed for a moment that one day that person would be preaching in my church in Australia, would love me and hug me and call me a dear friend and eat in my home, my wife's pavlova again and again and again. I never thought that would happen. You say, how does that happen? God did that. God did that. I didn't do that. I didn't plan to have the friends I have. I didn't work for that. I'm not like some people I see in this country who look at a conference meeting advertised in one of the Christian publications and says, one day, that's going to be me. I'm going to be there. I'm going to start this conference and then, guess what, brother? I got invited to preach at so-and-so's meeting. Oh, I was never that way. Never. Brother Chappell asked me to preach 3 times. The first time I turned him down. The second time I accepted and then cancelled on him. And the third time I finally went. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't at all. I had a preacher say to me, I had an American preacher was in my office when we got invited by Brother Chappell to go and preach here, and I said, Brother Chappell's invited me to preach at his conference. And he said, Brother Chappell's invited. He said, brother, are you going to go? I said, I don't know. I really want to. I said, just see what happens. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think I want to. And he said, I'd kill to have an opportunity like that. And I was sitting at my desk and I looked up at him and I said, and do you know why you never will? And his eye, he said, why? I said, you want it too much. You'll never get it. God gives those things. God brings you to people. Those relationships are determined by God. Statement number 6 is this. You should not fear or shun meeting a diversity of people. You shouldn't worry. You shouldn't be hung up about that. Let me say this. I am not insecure about who I am. I was saved by people who brought the gospel who came from a charismatic church, which is okay because the independent Baptists have still not arrived in that area. I'm glad somebody came. And probably some people who got saved through me are glad that somebody came. But let me tell you something, that's not who I am. That's not who I am. I'm glad they came. I thank God they came. But I'm an independent Baptist. I know who I am. I know why I'm an independent Baptist. I know what I believe. I'm secure about that. I'm not a neo-evangelical. I'm an independent Baptist. I use a King James Bible, and I happen to believe that every word in it is the Word of God, preserved. And I'm very relaxed about that. And what I'm saying is, if I meet people from somewhere else, I'm not insecure in having a conversation with them. And in fact, I don't want to shock you, sometimes those people give me something that helps me. You say, you went looking for it. No, I didn't go looking for it. It just came to me, it crossed my path. I'm glad that in God's process of trying to help me, He doesn't only have independent Baptists to help me. You know, if that was the entire pool of God's sovereignty, that He could only bring one of them to me, this would be a truly sad day. Now, many of the people who have helped me profoundly, of course, have been independent Baptists, but God has brought other people across my path who have just sometimes said something. You know, we were on holidays when Brother Fisher called us early in the year, and we were travelling down south to see, right down Tasmania, a little island off the southern coast of Australia. And we went down there and we stayed with my wife's father and his wife, and we went to church with them on Sunday morning. And in this church, I wouldn't go to, you know, I'd never choose to. It's not a place that is like me at all. This is a church that brings Bill Hybels out and everything that I'm not for. And this church is kind of his point church, but it's, you know, where we were, that was it. And we thought, well, we're staying with the family, you know. And I said to the kids, I said, now kids, we're going to be going to this church, you know. And they're like, oh, Dad, I don't want to go there. And, you know, what happens if a woman gets up to preach? And I'm saying, look, I said, look, I understand it's not us. I said, but let me tell you something. Your grandfather has sacrificed and given money and laboured in this place. Let's not be demeaning to him. Let's just respect what he's done. We're going to go, and you know what? You're going to survive. And so we walked in, and it was very different. And we walked in, and I didn't feel comfortable there. But let me tell you something. One thing happened in the service that I remember to this day. One thing happened that was like, God really spoke to my heart. Now, it wasn't, I learned how to run a church from these people. No, it wasn't that. It was something somebody said in the course of a message that mostly was, shall I characterize, uneventful. It added nothing unto me really, but it added one thing. Now, I thank God for that. If God used something like that to help me, you say, Brother Sehmish, you darkened the doors of that neo place. Are you still independent Baptist? You know, only an idiot would ask a question like that. Let me ask you, are you so insecure that would change you? Well, when you're going to walk out and say, you know, call Bill up on the phone and get him to your church to tell you how to... No, I know who I am. I am not insecure. I don't seek it out. Please understand me. I don't seek it out. I'm not looking to do that. I know who I am. I know what I'm called to do. I know what I believe. I know what Bible I use. I'm here by choice. Some of you were born into it, but some of us paid a great price for this thing. And I'm here by choice. I know who I am. But I am not afraid to meet people from different cultures and from different places. God can use that to add something to me. Again, I don't seek it out like, well, I'm going to meet this person because this could add something to me. I don't think that way. I'm relaxed. I want to walk in the Spirit, not in the flesh. But as the Holy Spirit is guiding my life, I am meeting people along the way. that God is using. I remember Dr. Hiles talking about his dentist. Dr. Hiles had a dentist who was, I don't know if he was like neo-evangelical or ecumenical or what he was, but he was his dentist. And I remember Dr. Hiles commenting after, I guess he'd been to his dentist many times, he walked away and he said, I like my dentist. I remember Dr. Hiles talking about, he was analysing, why do I like my dentist? And what happened is God had that person had just given something. It wasn't a lesson in doctrine. The guy was a dentist. But there was something there. And he talked about what that was, that he got from that person. Now, I don't think you need to be terrified about meeting people from different places like that unless you're very insecure about who you are. I had a very strange thing happen to me in Thailand. In Thailand, we take gospel tracts and we try to talk to people about the gospel and we hand out tracts. Thailand has a phenomena that I'm going to really not tell you too much about, and it's just something I don't want to educate you too much about. But they have let's just say that sometimes sexuality there is very fluid, quite unlike it is in many places. It's a little bit strange. It's more than a little bit strange. It's dark and it's demonic. But they have some people there, and I've been out on the street, and I've met some people there who I was not sure was a man or a woman. I didn't know. I'm guessing it was a man, but it looked like a woman. And many of these people are young people, and this is a phenomena. It's probably demonic. It goes back hundreds of years before there ever was a modern gay movement. People have documented it in books of missionaries who came years ago. It seems to be a stronghold of some kind. Recently, the pastor in our church came to me and said, Pastor Sehmish, I don't know what to do. I've got a lady in the church, she's got 2 boys, one of them's 6 years old, and he keeps saying to his mother, I don't want to be a boy, I want to be a girl. And the mother has come and said, Pastor, what do I do? And the pastor came to me and said, Pastor, what do I do? Now, there's a strange, demonic, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Anyway, we'll be out handing out tracts, and you'll see some of these people out there. You say, what do you do? Well, I spit on them and cross the street. No, I give them a tract. I tell them God loves them and that they can be saved and have all their sin taken away. That's what I do. Well, I've done this several times, and sometimes you see the same faces. I remember seeing one particular occasion, this person on the street and had this, bright orange hair. And immediately you think, Thai people don't have bright orange hair. So this person has made their hair, and I look and their nails on their hand were painted up, and so I give a tract. This person looked very effeminate, and I gave the tract, and that was fine. And we give tracts and we talk to a lot of people. Well, in April of last year, one of the men that I was working with, when every Thai man turns 21 across all of Thailand, every Thai man or Thai boy at 21 has to go back to his home province on a certain day. They all do it across all of Thailand. And every Thai boy, the army is there, and all the generals and the local army colonels, everybody are there. And there's a mandatory recruiting of Thai men at age 21 where they have to serve for 2 years. But it's not all Thai boys. So they all have to go by law. They all get measured and checked and approved physically. This happens in one day. And then they'll line them all up, and all their families come out to see who's going to be taken to the army and who's not. And many of these guys now have got wives and kids. And they're very fearful to go because when they go, the ones that go with wives and kids, 80% their wives leave them while they're in there. And so I saw some of these guys selected sitting down crying on the floor because they realise my wife's going to leave me once I go. Because they get so little money, they can't pay for their families. So I travelled about a 12-hour drive. I went up here for this weekend. I assembled in a place where there was all the boys from this particular province, including this man I work with, had come back, and they were all going to go through this process. All their families were there. There's about 2,000 people there, and just hundreds of these boys, all aged 21 that year, and all getting ready, and there was all high brass there, and I was the only white person there. And so I went in, and they have a PA system and all of that, and these Thai army people saw me. And they announced over the PA, oh, there's a Westerner, Farang, they call. Farang has come here. Maybe he's come to join the army. And all the Thai people laugh. And you know, I just was there. Well, I'm standing there, and there's all these families, these people we were trying to witness to in this area. There's all these young Thai men, aged 21. And I'm standing there, and suddenly somebody starts yelling out to me from way across the other side of the field, yelling out, waving frantically. And I'm like, and everybody, it felt like 2,000 people stopped and looked. And I'm looking, and there's an orange-haired person who has their nails painted, who happened to be aged 21 and was there for the army, waving to me frantically like I was a dear friend. And I'm telling you, everybody just stopped and looked. And all these young Thai men were like looking at me and looking at this person. And I just went, it was embarrassing. But let me say this. I do not regret being out on the street, handing out tracts, and that person knowing me. I do not regret that. You can laugh, you could try to embarrass me, you can do what you want. I'm okay with that. I'm not insecure about who I believe, and I'm not insecure about who I am. God will bring different people across your path. If the only people that you are in contact with is other people exactly the same as you, you are going to be diminished. It's the reason, forgive, it's the reason why some of you think so small. Some of you have vision this big. And I don't know why this isn't working. So you meet somebody else like this too. Why is this not working? I don't know why it's not working. And God's trying to go, could we just, wake up? Get through? So my counsel to you would be, in the process of the sovereignty of God, again, I'm not saying I seek that out by any means, but I'm saying I am submissive to God bringing people across my path. I learn things. And God is doing that, and God will do that in relationships. Statement number 7, and there's an 8 and we're done. 7 is the majority of our relationships will turn out to be seasonal rather than lifelong. Most of your relationships will not be for life. Again, I'm not saying your wife. I'm talking about all manner of friendships and even less. And what I'm saying is God will bring people across your path, and many of them are there for a season, but they're not going to be there forever. It's just a divine hand connecting you with somebody for a time. And the things that can cause, death, departure, somebody goes, divergence, you end up moving in just complete different directions. That can close the season of a relationship. Dr. Tom Williams told me in my office in Australia, he said, Brother Sehmish, at this age in my life, I'm on my 3rd set of friends. I stopped and thought about that. So God decrees and God determines the length of time for these divine appointments. And I say that assuming that you will conduct yourself as a Christian in all your relationships. I'm not saying that if you handle yourself inappropriately or you sin and that ends a relationship, or that was the divine hand. That was your sin. But I'm saying if you conduct yourself appropriately, God will order the length and time period of those relationships. Brethren, please understand, I wish we could get this. It's just meant to be. There's been people I didn't want to leave my life who had to leave my life. When I took over the pastor of Good Shepherd Baptist Church, my mentor was a man by the name of Sidney Hunter, who authored a paper. He was an American. He wasn't from San Diego. He was an American who authored a paper very similar to what John R. Rice used to do with Sword of the Lord. And this man was greatly used of God in Australia. And when I became the pastor of Good Shepherd Baptist Church, he was one of my members. But I'd get up there and preach the hard things, and he'd be sitting in the front row, always say amen. And he encouraged me. And if I had a problem, I didn't know what to do, he was always there to go to. And that was really good. And he had such a good spirit. People said to him one day, I'd been the pastor, fella said, how do you put up with that young fella there being your pastor? I mean, how do you put up with that, Brother Sid? Meaning you're somebody and he's nobody. How do you put up with that? And he looked at him and he just said, well, he didn't understand that statement. He said, he's my pastor. He said, he's my pastor. And by the way, that's how I look at him. He's my pastor. That's my pastor. And I just wish Brother Hunter had been there my whole life. But I was only in that ministry 2 years, and unexpectedly, nobody knew he was alive one moment and he was gone in heaven the next. It just was that quick. And for all the grief that was to his family and everybody else, it took somebody out of my life. It was the end of a relationship. A mentor was gone. And you say, what happened? Well, what happened was that was meant to be. I don't say it happened because of me, but it was for my journey, a person taken out. I had to rise up to a new level. I had to find something that wasn't there before. There was nobody to go to and say, I'm having a problem, I don't know what to do. So God will determine whether these people are in your life. I was in Pastor's life for a while. I'm gone now. I'm not there. I mean, he can call me if he wants to, and when I come back to Australia for a meeting, I talk to him, but he's on his own. I'm not there. I was there for years when he had problems and I helped him through, but now I'm gone. And that happens. And then the last statement is this, as we finish: we should never be closed to further relationships. One of the things I pity about people who are very busy or very prominent is that they already have a very close inner circle. You notice some of these people, whenever they come with their staff and their entourage, and they have it all there. Largely, they are closed to any further relationships. They're so busy, they have so much already. And I often think I would not want to be in the place where I missed meeting someone I was meant to meet because I was so busy or, had just closed myself off to that. Don't ever get to the place where you close yourself off to this happening, because you don't know what the sovereign hand of God is going to do, and you don't know what you're going to need. You could miss something from someone that you were meant to receive. And when I look back, I think, what if I'd missed this connection with preacher? What if that had not happened? Where would our church be? Where would I be? I mean, it was that significant. But totally no forewarning it was coming. And I thank God he even overcame my bad spirit about that. So just be careful of that. God can be using those things to help you. And I pray that maybe you'll just have a little more openness to what is going on around you and what God is trying to do in terms of the people you meet and come across. Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and pray.